Hello YouTubers, how's it going? This watch appears today even after the battery replacement, so obviously there's something wrong with the electronic inside of it. But repairing the electronic, even though it is doable, it could be costly, so I guess a better alternative is to replace the watch movement. So let's get started. So before we can get access to the movement inside the watch case, we're going to have to remove the pin that secures the link to the band right here. And so to do that, I'm going to use this inexpensive pin removing tool. So all you have to do is to line up the rod with the pinhole and then rotate the handle until the rod pushes the pin out on the other side. And I find this method much easier than pounding the pin with the hammer. But to put the pin back inside, you probably need to use the hammering technique, because the rotation from the handle won't give you enough force to push the pin back inside. And now we can just take out the watch pin, so the watch band will no longer be in our way. And we're going to flip the watch over, and you can see on the right there is a little notch for you to stick in some kind of blade to lift the snap off back. Now let's remove the battery with a flathead screwdriver. So you just have to look for an indentation to stick in your screwdriver and lift the battery off the movement. Now let's remove the stem and the crown. So what you have to do is to look for a hole, usually with an arrow pointing to it, and then use any kind of small tip material to push the release mechanism. If you do it right, it should come out very easily, and you don't have to force it. And even though I may appear to have forced it a little bit, it was okay. And now you can see a plastic ring that holds the movement in place. So we're going to lift it up with a tweezer, just like so. What I'm going to do now is to separate all the three hands from the dial with the fork tool. And what I recommend you do is to insert a piece of plastic film between the hands and the dial to prevent any scratching. So what I did is probably not the best way to do it. Now you can separate the dial from the watch movement with a blade. There is no glue or any other kind of adhesive that holds the plastic to the dial, so this step should be easy. What we are going to do next is to separate the dial from the watch movement. So you just have to hold the dial with one hand and use the other hand to pull the movement away from the dial. But if you find it difficult to separate the movement from the dial, or the dial has been stuck to the movement, you can use the same pry tool to separate them from each other. And here comes the replacement part. And even though they look identical, the replacement part was actually manufactured by another company called Yoder, whereas the original movement was manufactured by Citizen Company. The replacement part has come with a battery, and you probably don't have to remove it, because the watch movement won't work until the stem is put back in place. But I guess I just try to be safe. Now you can place the dial onto the new replacement part, so just have to line up the hole on the dial with the rotating rod on the replacement part, like so. Let me zoom in a little bit, here we go. Now we are going to install all the hands onto this new movement. The first hand to go will be an hour hand, followed by the minute hand and the second hand. However, there's one problem with this new movement part. It wasn't designed to take the second hand, so unfortunately I won't be able to put the second hand back onto the dial when it's done. And the owner of this watch said she's okay with it. Now we are going to adjust the hour hand to 12 o'clock. The process of installing the minute hand is the same as the process of installing the hour hand, but I'm going to be doing that under a microscope. And as you can see, I'm struggling with that a little bit. This process takes quite a bit of patience and concentration. You can get easily frustrated after a few trials, but I guess that's typical. So once it is in this spot, you just have to apply some pressure with your tweezer. But you're not going to hear a snap or anything, so you have to figure out intuitively whether it has been secured onto the movement. I think it's okay now, so I'm going to set the minute hand to 12 o'clock. Now let's attach the plastic ring onto the new movement. And please mind the indentation on the plastic ring. Make sure it sits on the right side with the stem hole. Now the stem and the crown can be reinstalled. You just have to push it through the hole until you hear the click. That's it. And the watch should start working when you insert the battery. Here we go. And now I'm going to adjust the time, which is 24 past 6 in the evening. And now I'm going to just let it run for 5 minutes, and I will show you in high-speed motion. Okay, so the new movement is working just fine. And mind the indentation before you put the back cover back on. Press the back cover onto the case until you hear the snap. Okay, that's it. Now we are going to reinstall the pen by pushing it through the link and the bands, and then hammer it down until it sits in there nicely. And that's it. Let's clean it up. So remember that this is just a demonstration video. Every watch is made differently, so you have to study yours before you work on it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy.